Hi there, welcome to another video. Thanks for clicking on this one. This is a hopefully really quick one about how to upgrade the storage in your PS5 Slim. It's slightly different to the old PS5. I've just tried looking for some videos on how to do this on YouTube and I couldn't really find any specifically for some SSD that isn't kind of approved and officially branded as a PS5 storage upgrade. This is an Acer Predator. And there's a few subtleties about this, and I can see myself making a few mistakes, and I'm a computer science teacher, so I know there'll be people out there that don't really know what they're doing and are a bit worried and lacking in confidence. So I'll just go through this really quickly so you know what to do and you don't mess up your PlayStation and break it, okay? So first thing that I found myself getting caught out with was actually getting into the case. Like I say, slightly different on the PS5 Slim to the old base version, where you had to slide it and kind of pull it. This one, if you see how this is orientated, you see the disc drivers on top, and I've turned it to the side slightly. You just have to kind of be quite firm with it. Feels like you're going to snap the lid off, but you just have to grab it. And the first time you do it, it literally feels like you're snapping it off. So don't be worried about that. Just give it a good kind of heave. And now I've done it, it comes off quite easily, but it literally sounded like I snapped the whole lid off, okay? It will pop off without any kind of problems there. That was the first thing that took me a few minutes to get my head around. The next bit's straightforward enough. Obviously, you need some screwdrivers for this, like a small screwdriver. But top tip that I'll mention when I get to the next bit about the screwdrivers is to do with the torque in it. So just wait for the next bit and you'll see what I mean about this. This first one's easy enough to get off. It was relatively stiff, but that comes off nice and easy. I've made sure to earth myself by touching a bit of metal. I'm sat on a metal frame chair, so I can kind of constantly earth myself, but I have earthed myself. Make sure you do that. You don't want to zap the whole thing. Pop off the little cover once you've got the screw off. You see it comes out pretty easy. The old one used to be a bit more triangular than that. So you can see there, that's got your space for the SSD to go into. At this point, I've already put, this is my heatsink. Like I said, the Acer Predator is what I bought. It's far cheaper than a lot of the other things out there. It doesn't come pre-installed with a heatsink, so this will also show you about how to get the heatsink on. It's not a big deal. You don't have to worry. It literally takes no more than 5 minutes to get it on and get it in. But this one's way cheaper than one of the kind of officially branded ones that come with a heatsink, like £50 cheaper. I think this was £105 on Amazon. I can put the links in the description if you want. And then the heatsink, I think, was about £6 or £7 as well. So way cheaper. You get the other stuff, it's like £150, £160. Anyway, when you get this out, it's this little kind of memory looking thing in there. There was a sticker on top, which I will peel this off and you can see. It's got like a branded Predator sticker. And I was a bit like, is that the heatsink already? Does that need to be there? That's just part of it. Leave it on, it's fine. You put the blue kind of heatsink plastic there. That's supposed to be there. That's like the first level. And then you put your metal kind of dispersion heatsink on top of it. The great thing is you don't need to worry too much about this. Like, I'm a bit of a neat freak with these things, so I'll make sure it's kind of nicely level on there. And then this just goes on top. Again, relatively square. Make sure you leave enough space either end. Like, it's got to plug in that way, so don't like ram the thing right up against the end, otherwise it's not going to plug in properly. Likewise, don't go all the way down that end, top tip, because then you can't screw the thing in. So you kind of have to just make sure there's enough room either end of it. Squeeze it together because you need to make good contact all over it. It has some elastic bands with it, and this is really important, don't leave the elastic bands on. You can put them on if you want, but if you leave them on, they're not heat proof. If you put it in there, it'll just melt probably. So don't do that. It does come with these clips, so the clips just kind of bend them as much as you want to get them on. Like, have to bend them to get them round. Again, be fairly rough with it. Squeeze it on nicely so it's all sorted. There we go. So they're on. We've got decent contact, squeezed together, nice and firm. Yeah, so just while I've got to take out the next bit, I am just going to stick the elastic bands on, just to ensure that, there we go. You see I'm being fairly rough with it. It doesn't make a big deal. There we go. And then that'll just help make sure that It's all squished down nice together. Put that to one side. Yeah, so what I was talking about, top tip with the screwdriver, it's a really small thread that you can see in here now that we've got to get. Hopefully you can see that. I'll do a closer shot of it in a second. This tiny screw needs to come out because you need to move the tiny little kind of bridge there up one slot, because obviously if we look at this guy here, if I just kind of drop it in, roughly speaking, okay, you can see it's shorter than the enclosure. So I need to take that out and put it there so it's got something to sit on. But if you have a screwdriver which is too kind of slim there, it's really hard to get any torque on it and actually get it out. So make sure you've got kind of the widest one you can get to get enough torque on it, and it will come out real easy, no problem. And then lift out the tiny, it's so tiny, the tiny little kind of bridge, I'm calling it, and then move it up to the next slot. Pop it on. Important though, don't screw it straight back in, because this needs to go in first, okay? So that's been squished together nicely now, that's looking good. Take those elastic bands back off. And then that's ready to go. Looks good. We just pop them in, make sure it's the right way round. You've got like the little bit of the cutout on this side, and if you look inside, I can't get the angle on this with the camera, but if you look inside the PlayStation, you'll see that that lines up. If it doesn't, then you've put the whole thing on upside down and you're gonna have to start again. But you know, we make mistakes. So you just kind of line that up with the slot, and then you've got to gently push it in. As you do that, there we go. If it doesn't quite go in to start, and then lower it down, you can see it's kind of half sticking out. It's in, but it's sticking up. If it doesn't kind of slot in, you're probably ever so slightly out by a millimetre. Just gently move it over and then hold it down like so. Then the screw just goes back on. And this is the point where if you've put the heatsink on too far back or too far forwards, you'll obviously have trouble at this point. But mine looks pretty spot on. The little heatsink pad is ever so slightly too far back, but it's actually not a problem. And then it's in. Now what we've got to do is, don't forget, put this on. Loads of people always forget to put this back in. So I'm told. Make sure you put it around the right way. That is the wrong way, you can see. That doesn't line up. That's never going to work. So put it in the right way. And then we should be good to go. Screw the whole thing back in. Job's good. And then just pop the lid back on. Again, the right way around. That way there. And the last top tip, just make sure you get all of the contact points in on this. You have to push down fairly hard, otherwise it won't work. You have to get some loud kind of clicky noises on this. There we go. It should be more than that. How's it looking? Does that look like it's in? Nope. I can see on the side there's one not gone in. Oh my god. This is the most tricky bit, is getting the lid on. There we go. That's what I was looking for. A loud pop. This side's still not in there. Now here you go. Here's a tip. I seem to have, some way, somehow, this has got itself a bit bent. So I'm going to have to just get the screwdriver underneath there and lift it up ever so slightly, because that's not going to go back in otherwise. I don't want to break it, so I've got to do it a bit carefully here. There you go, that's enough space now. Don't know how that happened. I'm going to start with this side first. And then do the rest of them. Brilliant. Yeah, that taking the lid off and getting it back on is probably the hardest bit. The rest of it's relatively straightforward. I feel like Sony could have maybe created an easier mechanism for getting the lid off. The rest of it is all really easy. Like if they just put like a screw in it, either end. Would have secured it a bit more safe. I don't know. It's beyond my pay grade. That's it. Whole process, once you're happy with it, and this is literally the second time I've done it. I didn't even finish it the first time. That's, I reckon, 5 minutes if you time yourself. So it's really not scary, really straightforward. If you like the video, I'd really appreciate a like. If you've watched the whole thing, fantastic. Reward me and my efforts of this video with a like, and a subscribe is always appreciated. Don't know if I'm putting this on my golf channel or if I've made a separate channel for this, but either way, subscribe to both and that would be amazing. It really, really would help. I'd massively appreciate it. You don't have to do it, but if you want to help a brother out, that would be great. Thanks a lot. See you next video.